Hi, ladies, and welcome to this interview with LaShawanda Moore. You are going to love what she has to share with you today. She's an incredible woman, and I can't wait for you to meet her. LaShawanda, why don't you take it just a few minutes and introduce yourself to the girls and tell them a little bit about what it is that you do?
Hello, girls. How are you? I am so excited to be here with you today. My name is LaShawanda Moore. I'm originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I attended college right there in my home state, Southern University. I majored in civil engineering, and I'm actually on my second career. Well, I don't know if it's my second career or not. I'm currently employed by Capital One, and I am a senior unit manager in a call center. And you might ask, an engineer, call center? I'm sure that throughout this interview that will come out later. But I am also an entrepreneur. And one of the things that my first career, in which I spent 21 years as an engineer and leader in DuPont, equipped me with tools that allowed me to go out on my own. So I also own a family entertainment park, trampolines called Launch, and I am a coach and consultant for my own company called Elevate Success. So I have like three jobs going on right now, but I didn't even tell you I'm a wife and a mother of four as well.
Oh my goodness, four. Oh my goodness, you got a house full there.
Yes, I wear many hats.
Yes, you do. So, tell me a little bit about. You talked about, your the like the a little bit about your careers and everything.
Yeah.
So, what motivated you to take the path that you've taken with your careers? Starting out with DuPont, and I know that you said
Mhm.
you use some of those skills to help you be an entrepreneur, and then with everything that you're doing, how do all of these come about then?
Yeah, great question, Christina. And I'll tell you, it really started me growing up as a young girl in the projects of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, raised by a single mother who taught me and really instilled in both myself and my sister, who's an engineer as well, mechanical engineer. She instilled in us to go to school, get an education, and major in something that will give you a good paying job to get out of Louisiana. And that was the message that we heard loud and clear. And honestly, Christina, I thought about being a teacher. I thought about being a dentist, being a mortician. I thought about all of these different careers because I didn't want to just do engineering because my uncle was an engineer or because my mom thought that that was a great idea, right? So I explored all of those things. But one day I went to the local university, Southern University, and I met a guy, Huey Lawson, who talked me into civil engineering. And I chose civil engineering because it was the most practical one that I could embrace. And for me at the time, okay, all engineering is great. And there's some practicality to all of them. We need all engineers. But civil engineering gave me a breadth of options underneath it. So civil was like an umbrella for environmental, wastewater, transportation, structural design. So it was all of these different things. And I was like, hey, if I choose civil engineering, I'm bound to find something that I enjoy one day when I grow up. And I started my curriculum in civil engineering. And honestly, truth be told, I started interning the summer of my freshman year. And probably my junior year, I was like, I don't know if I really like this engineering thing. But someone told me that I could go to school for an undergraduate degree that would get me into a really great company with a great pay, and I could get my master's in something else to help further my career. So I continued on with civil engineering, and it landed me an amazing job with an awesome company, DuPont, Fortune 500 company, and I joined their rotational program. So once again, I joined something else to help me get a lot of different experiences because I really didn't know what I wanted to be. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So getting into DuPont's rotation program, I was able to take on many different jobs and get my master's in business. And so once I got my master's in business, my focus then really was on leadership and more business type of assignments, which led me to my entrepreneurship. I sold jewelry, which led me to coaching. And I got my coaching certification, which led me to more leadership positions in DuPont because my confidence was built through my direct sales business and my coaching certification. And then I decided to leave my career as an engineer and go out full fledged as an entrepreneur, consultant, coach for Elevate Success and open up the Launch Trampoline Park. I felt like, you know what, now's my time. It was 21 years in to my career. Now's my time to make a change. And I did that for a year. And then I realized, you know what? It's time for me to go back to work so I can make some more money. But I did not want to go back to manufacturing or to operations or to a chemical company. I really wanted to do something that would fulfill my why and my purpose. And so leadership and organizational development is something that I absolutely love because it allows me an opportunity to help people overcome obstacles that keep them from being their best. And so now I work for a bank, right? Who would have thought that I'd be working for a bank? But now, day in and day out, I get a chance to mentor and to coach people to find their purpose and do what they do better.
See, I think that's really like a lot of the things that you touched on there, but the biggest um, thing that I really want to make sure that the girls got out of that is that forward thinking.
Yeah.
The forward thinking of always planning for essentially like, what's the next step? Uh,
Yeah.
what do I want to be doing next? And really thinking about that and having that intentional thinking and then looking for the ways to be able to do, how can I use the opportunities that are being presented to me now, right
Hmm.
here, to get
Hmm.
me to where it is that I want to go and what I want
Yeah.
to be. I really, thinking about what you did in college in the internships and then um,
Mhm.
finding the opportunity that's like, well, I'm going to stay in civil engineering, but here's this opportunity that will present me a place to get a lot of experience that I can
Mhm.
take forward with me, all of that knowledge and everything like that. I mean, that just really is so important, ladies. And I laughed when you said that, you hit your junior year and you're like, I'm not sure I want to do this.
Yes.
I
Yes.
mean, I think a lot of us have that time in college where we're just like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, and you know what? Just there's like another message to it as well. I was constantly
Hmm.
exploring what brought me joy. So even though I thought I wanted to be an engineer, I explored it and I was like, I don't really like this. So then I needed to find out, okay, well, what do I do now? And it was like, okay, keep going. And then you can get your master's in whatever you want to get your master's in. Well, at the time, I didn't really know what I wanted to get my master's in. So I kept exploring through the rotational program and seeing what I really enjoyed. And so it takes a lot of paying attention to yourself and what fulfills you, what moves you, what drives you. And so I want the girls to understand that just because you make a decision today about a career isn't your end all be all and doesn't mean you have to do it for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
It's just your starting place. I look at, it as like just steps, right?
Hmm.
And so continue to explore and continue to figure out what it is that you're good at, what it is that you enjoy, and go with your heart.
Absolutely, absolutely, and remembering too that each job that you've got, you are developing your skills
That's
of what
right.
you're good at, developing skills that maybe you're not so good at, which is okay. Finding where your strengths and your weaknesses are. That's all those stepping stones to helping you get to that next career, that next thing that you want to be doing. So it's always, and please take the time to explore.
Yep.
It really is
And
okay to not have it figured out yet.
absolutely. And just put the things that you learn inside of your toolbox
Hmm.
because you never know when you're going to need to utilize some of those tools that you learned 5, 10 years ago today.
Hmm. No, exactly. Um, so we talked a little bit about some of the like exploring and that kind of thing, but if we're going to look at just the piece first of being a civil engineer,
Yep.
so what does it take? what kind of special training and that kind of thing does it take to become a civil engineer? And then we'll talk about the other items.
Sure. Another great question. Thank you, Christina. So to become a civil engineer, you enroll in a college curriculum for engineering, okay? And your first 2 years or so of your engineering curriculum are more general studies, just especially your first year, okay, is more of general information, okay, about engineering and some of your basic math and science and things like that. And so once you continue on in that curriculum, the longer you go, right, in the years in college, you get more and more into your field of study, which would be civil engineering. But I highly recommend for any field of engineering that students take on an internship or co-op immediately. Okay. And the reason why I say that, you can go to school and come out with a 4.0 GPA, but if you don't have the experience in the workplace, and if you don't have extracurricular activities, you will not be competitive enough to land a good job. So, a part of becoming a civil engineer, I interned the summer of my freshman year at California at a Department of Transportation. Okay. And so then I got a chance to take a peek at the transportation aspect of civil engineering. And then my next year, I went to a structural company. So I had a chance to do that. And then the next 2 summers, I went to another consulting firm. So every summer, I was out working in my field to gain some experience. And I'll tell you, that paid off for me when it was time for me to get a job. One of my internships was working for Caterpillar. And what's interesting about, so Caterpillar is a company that makes tractors, for those that aren't familiar with Caterpillar. But what's interesting about Caterpillar, when at graduation, I was offered a job to work for Caterpillar as a salesperson. Yes. And the reason is they wanted their salespeople to be able to think critically, to have an analytical mind, and be able to hold conversations with buyers and decision makers in the company so that we could get the sale. So I would be able to speak and understand the language as an engineer. So engineering is an excellent foundation to anything, because engineering teaches you how to solve problems. And there are basically I would say four major fields of engineering. There's electrical, mechanical, civil, and chemical. Okay. With mechanical engineering, you're dealing with things that move. With electrical engineering, you're dealing with things you can't see, but it does something. So you can't see electricity, but it is powering up, it's turning your lights on, right? It is getting some things turned on in your house, okay? The civil engineering piece, this deals with things that are static and stationary. So as part of my training, I took on classes like surveying so that I could survey the land. The land doesn't move. Where are you going to put the highways? That doesn't move. That's stationary. Dams, where are you going to put a dam, right, to hold back bodies of water? Those things are stationary. Bridges. So you take on all of these different classes to learn these things, but it's in the experience in your interns and your co-ops that really helps you practically put the theory into action. And then the last one is chemical engineering. If things mix together and it causes a reaction, that's chemical engineering.
Like the things that go boom, chemical engineering.
Things that go boom, that's chemical. And there's some other engineering, more like biomedical engineering, industrial engineering, those kinds of fields of engineering. You can't go wrong with engineering, though.
Yeah, it does sound really great. Makes me almost wish that I had taken an engineering degree in college instead of psychobiology.
Hey, it's never too late. You can go now.
So and I think the girls are going to see like a trend with throughout the interviews. They're going to see this trend of internships. So I just had a thought. I was like, so where is it? Because you had some incredible internships. where is
Mhm.
it that you were going to find out information and find internship opportunities?
Great. Another great question, Christina. Okay, so number one, you want to make sure that you are in touch with your placement center that's on the college. I'm having a brain freeze right now, Christina, where I can't think of the name of it.
Career placement?
Career Placement Center, yes, on your college campus. Okay, a lot of where I found my contacts was going right there, making sure that I spent time in there and I saw what companies were coming to our campus to do on site interviews. Okay. And you go in, and we, at the time, we would sign up for that. I'm sure it's way more high tech these days, right? This digital age. But make sure you are in touch with your career placement center. Okay. The second thing, I talked about extracurricular activities. I actually found out and got hired by DuPont by attending a networking awards conference. It was the Black Engineer of the Year Awards Conference in Baltimore, Maryland. And I learned about that through the National Society of Black Engineers. So being a part of these organizations will give you information about different events and career fairs, right? So being a part of the extracurricular activities such as NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers, there's one for chemical engineers, there's one for civil engineers, all of these different organizations. Be in touch with them, be an active participant, and also hold some offices, right? And that will give you insight on different job opportunities and allow you to network with people who are already out in the workplace. Because a lot of the volunteers that come back in to speak to students are in the workplace, right?
Exactly.
So you want to be a part of those organizations as well as your placement center.
Absolutely. I that is such a valuable piece of information. That tip of getting involved with organizations and not just being a member of that organization, but actually getting involved with getting on a committee, holding an office. That's so important because while your education, your
Mm-hmm.
training,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that you're going to have
Mm-hmm.
is absolutely, it's valuable that you do know how to do the job,
Mm-hmm.
but getting the job, getting the promotions and the internships, that comes from who do you know? And who can
Exactly. And
do that?
that's right, Christina. And also, when you are a part of these organizations and holding leadership positions or being active participants, you're gaining interpersonal skills that are necessary for you to operate in a job in corporate America. And it's so important that people who participate in these know how to work as a team.
Yes.
And that's one crucial thing about engineering. You can't solve the problem on your own. A lot of times you might have all of those different engineers that I just talked about earlier, have them all on the same team working together to solve a problem.
Yeah,
And so you have to know how to work with other people, and no other better proving ground for that is through your college clubs.
absolutely.
Even if it's the drama club, whatever it is, get into
Yes,
something and be consistent and active.
exactly. Absolutely. Those are really, really valuable pieces of information. Like I did not want you guys to lose out on that. So really getting involved as even with you now being in high school, getting involved with those organizations and holding offices, being on committees, that kind of thing helps you, build your chops for going into college and doing that as well. So getting involved is huge and important.
That's right.
Um, what is maybe the biggest thing that you have struggled with? And I know that you've got a variety of different things that you are involved with. So just thinking about like what's the biggest thing that overall that you struggled with, and how have you handled it?
Oh, there's a couple of things. So the biggest thing that I have struggled with throughout my career is, I'm trying to find the biggest one, Christina. I would say believing in myself
Yeah.
and and holding the confidence. And the reason why I say holding the confidence is because I have these up and down times, right, where I feel confident and where I feel not so confident. And when I feel confident, I'm in the game and I'm getting results. When I'm not feeling confident, I play small. And I know that we were not created to play small. We were created to make impact. We were created to discover who we are, discover our purpose, know our strengths, and do it. And so the thing that I struggle with is when I see things that don't feel good, or I experience things that don't feel good, like not being fully accepted or my ideas not being heard and not being utilized. And over time, those things just kind of pile up. And when you constantly see it, being an engineer, female engineer, is tough,
Yeah.
right? Engineering typically is not a female field. There are females out there, and more today than there ever have been. But if you can imagine being in a male's world,
Right.
right, and trying to make a difference and always having to prove yourself. Like everywhere I went, I had to prove myself. And if for some reason I still wasn't accepted after I had done all that I could do to prove myself,
Hmm.
it would beat at my confidence,
Yeah.
right? It would take a beating on my security and knowing who I was. In fact, I lost myself at a certain part of my career where I had been trying to meet everybody's expectations and standards. And before I knew it, I didn't know what I was good at anymore. I started getting depressed, feeling all the stress and the mental health strain in my life that impacted my family. And I had to get up out of that, rediscover my why and my purpose, and then work like crazy to advance it in order to stay in my confident mode. So that's been really my major struggle. And on top of being a female, I'm also a brown girl.
Exactly. That's what I was even going to ask you. I was like, sure, that's got to
Yeah,
be an added layer of stress of having to prove yourself, now to only
yeah.
be a woman. Because I mean, let's face it, in the engineering field, it isn't just men. It's probably, I'm not
A
an
lot of white
but
men.
exactly. I'm like, it's probably, it's a bunch of
Yeah.
white guys, and so just that has to be a challenge. So how do you handle with that?
Yeah, so it it's a lot. One, you always need an advisory board. You surround yourself with like-minded people, okay? So your peers, your friends, they need to be like-minded. And if they aren't operating at the same mental caliber that you are, you got to change your friends because your friends will affect your progress. Iron sharpens iron.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's the first thing. Always have like a peer group, a good circle around you that can encourage you and remind you of who you are. The second thing is I'm very strong in my faith. And if it wasn't for my faith, I wouldn't be standing here in front of you right now, to be honest with you. And that's a whole different story. You have to pick up my book,
All
Recover,
right.
to hear about that story. So I'm strong in my faith and my belief, and that helps center me and get me back focused. And then have a strong advisory board. And when I say advisory board, mentors, sponsors, safe place for you to go and ask those crazy questions. Think questions you think that are crazy, which by the way, there are no crazy questions. Because if you don't ask, you don't know. Closed mouths don't get fed is what I used to hear growing up, right? You have not because you ask not. So you always need to be willing to ask questions, but you got to have that advisory board and you proactively seek out that help and that support. And it was my mentors that helped pull me out of situations and into different roles. And it was my mentors and my sponsors who would sit in those meetings that I was not in and speak on my behalf and vouch for my credentials and vouch for my skills and my experience and say, yes, she can do it. Yes, she's director material. Right. So you need to have those people who are speaking on your behalf, which means that you can't be afraid of demonstrating. If you get results at the end of the day,
Yep.
if you are one to get results, then people will accept you.
Yep.
So you go to school, you learn all you can learn, you surround yourself with great people, you be aligned spiritually and get results, then it'll be okay.
Exactly. Exactly. That's great. I really the how's the saying go? You're most like the five people that you surround yourself with.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, honestly and truly, taking a really good look at those people who are you are surrounding yourself with,
Mm-hmm.
and see, are these people who are lifting you up, supporting you? Are these
Yeah.
people who are bringing you down? And if they're bringing you down, you need to change.
Bye-bye. That's
Exactly,
right. That's
exactly.
right.
Um, so we've talked about the struggles. So let's talk
Mhm.
about the happy part. So what have you found to be like the funnest or the most rewarding part of your career?
The most rewarding part of my career is when I'm responsible for something that wasn't working or something that wasn't existing, something broken. And then I was a part of helping it be fixed, have success, exist. And I think about there was one specifically early on in my career. So my first job out of college was construction engineering. And I was responsible for a huge project to build an instrumentation and electrical control room. And when I first was introduced to the project, there was nothing but dirt. It was just an open field. And then by the time I was done with that project, I had all of these controls and units, electrical units, just bathroom, everything in this building. And I led that project. And so that was most fulfilling to me. And then when your work is recognized, that is another piece that was really fulfilling to me. So I was in a magazine early on in my career, US Black Engineer magazine, and I was recognized as New Wave of Corporate Tigers, 30 under 30. So it was 30 of us featured, and I was one of those people. And the award was given to me by someone who was in Wilmington, Delaware. I was in Victoria, Texas. They were in Wilmington, Delaware, and they found out what I was doing. And they started watching me, and then they put me into this magazine. And that's just an example of most rewarding times in my career, right? When you're just responsible for being that person to go nothing to something or failure to success.
That I have to agree with you. Like being able to take nothing,
Hmm.
and then be able to create something,
Yeah.
especially when you're creating something that like lots of people are going to see and partake
And
in.
use.
Use.
Hmm. Like
Exactly.
if I go down there to that site right now in Victoria, Texas, that place is there. Like I did that.
That's awesome. That is totally awesome. Um, I have an experience where like we created something and it actually got put on a billboard. And so
Ah,
I remember
yeah.
driving down to Victoria, Texas, and taking a
Ah,
picture of that billboard. So yeah, so that is an incredible feeling for sure.
pretty cool.
Um, so back when you got started, to versus now, how are things different than what you thought it was going to be?
With me personally
With you personally, it can
or
be
life?
personally, it can be you personally, it can be life, it could be career. Um, just like as you were embarking out of college, and
Hmm.
you imagine what things were going to be like, how are they different now than what you thought?
Oh man, very different. Because coming out of college, first of all, I was trying to be the CEO of DuPont.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, I wanted it and I was going after it too. And so externally, I wanted to be a CEO, but I was very much operating in my head. Okay. Operating in my head. Today, I'm the CEO, but of Elevate Success, my own company. And I learned throughout my life to not only operate in my head, but operate from my heart.
Absolutely.
So as I stand here before you today and talk to you, I'm coming from here, right? who knew that I would have my own company? Who knew that I would own a franchise? Who knew that I wouldn't be working for DuPont right now, that I would be working for Capital One? Who knew I would have 4 kids? Who knew? Right? So life is very different. And the defining moment was probably the last 5 years of my career in DuPont when I lost myself and I had to discover my why. And once I discovered my why and remembered who I was, right, figured out my strengths, my mission now is to operate. So I go heart first, then bring the head in. When the heart and the mind come together, you have power.
Absolutely. When everything is in alignment,
Yeah,
amazing things happen, and really
yeah,
things start to fall into place for sure.
yeah.
And ladies, I want you to I don't want you to feel like you're supposed to have everything figured out right now, that you're supposed to know exactly what your purpose is, all of that kind of thing. This is your time for discovery,
That's
for
right.
exploring and everything. So with our having this conversation about that, I want you to realize that the season of your life that you are in right now is one of exploring and figuring those things out. And I don't want you to feel inadequate, or that you're doing something wrong because you don't have that figured out yet. I'm
Mm-mm.
50 and just now figuring it out. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and I'm on my way to 46 and I'm just figuring it out, right?
exactly.
So it took me, 20 years into my career as an engineer to figure it out. And I'm still figuring out what it truly means and
Yes.
how it plays out. And the way you figure out how it plays out is to explore. So I'm still exploring.
Yes.
I'm exploring in this new life, this next career. This is all new for me. Being an entrepreneur was all new for me. It was something else. I was like, what did I just give up my career to do this? And where's the paycheck? That's why I'm back. So I'm back working while I build up the business a little bit more.
Exactly. And just that's another realization, because now it's the big thing. Like earlier, like I remember, like when I left teaching to become an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
people were like, "What do you do?" Everybody thought you're crazy. Nowadays,
Yeah,
it's more accepted, and it's very glamorous and stuff like that. But people are like, "Where's my paycheck?" Exactly. Like, keep in mind that with entrepreneurship does not necessarily very readily come glamour and paychecks.
oh ho ho ho. Well, that's another interview.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, LaShawanda, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. Ladies, be sure to scroll down below the video. There is a written portion of the interview. And then below that is the comment section for you to leave any questions or comments that you have for LaShawanda. Thank you so much for taking the time today. I so enjoyed this and appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank
Bye.
you. Bye.